Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State was favored by 4.5. They won by 8. This was a really good game. Neither team could run the ball. But what did it come down to? Uh, it kind of came down to Drew Alar's thinking, and
I'll say
both the
this. I'll say this. I think these teams were evenly matched. They said on the broadcast that James Franklin felt that the talent he had on his team matched up against Ohio State, and for there's what 90 players on a college roster. For 88 of them, yes, that was exactly it. The problem was on defense. Ohio State had JTT, and on offense they had Marvin Harrison Jr. And Penn State, right, with minus Chop Robinson when he got hurt, they do not have a player like that. And Marvin Harrison is obviously Marvin Harrison. He's 101. And so that to me, that was the difference in the game, right? When you needed a play to happen on third down, on 1st and 10, whatever it was, Marvin Harrison made it. He was a bailout for Kyle McCord. If he's on Penn State, Drew Alar's team, Drew Alar looks much better that day, right? You probably flip the stat lines with him and McCord. And obviously JTT affected Drew Alar in a way that, he always seems to do against Penn State.
yeah, and that fumble recovery, the return for touchdown that got called back was brutal. It was a holding, right? So Penn State fans, I'm sorry, like it was a penalty. There's nothing you can do about it. That just blows, man. Though, because like that is an entirely different game. Entirely different game. Like Penn State has a legit chance. I mean, they could have won, I think. So, because then Ohio State that possession ended up scoring a touchdown, I believe. I could be wrong about that. I thought they did, but that would have been a huge swing. So
Yeah,
I'm
no, that would have been they did not having a touchdown.
so yeah, so that would have been a gigantic swing. So I picked Penn State. You picked Ohio State. I would pick Penn State again because if you're going to give me points against two teams that are pretty evenly matched, I'll take the points. So, uh, great game for both defenses. I'm really excited to see where the rest of this goes. I'm excited to see both of these teams play Michigan because I think Michigan actually has an offense that's good. Like it'd be really like I think Michigan. There's a chance Michigan runs away with this, but it'll just be
Yeah,
interesting because they Michigan's got to bring it twice. They got to bring the game twice.
that's just
This is
it.
not
And
this,
also,
this is not the Penn State team that they were able to run for like 400 yards against last year.
nope. And also, I think Michigan, in terms of everybody in college football, has obviously looked the best and looked like to be in a tier of their own. If you're just watching the eye test and what they've done against inferior opponents, the problem is they've not have been tested at all. Penn State and Ohio State both got a test under their belt this past weekend. Ohio State probably had one, when they played at Notre Dame, which is good for them. Now, does it put it on film for Michigan to see? Absolutely, but also like Michigan has to go to Penn State, and then Iowa or Ohio State, has big game experience already under their belt on the road. So like, yeah, it is awesome. I mean, we were super excited to watch this game, and it lived up to the hype, I think.
Yeah, this game. I mean, I took the under Dawson's Diner. Oh yeah, was not even close. And he kind of knew like at halftime, you were like, all right, because there's always a chance, right? If you have there's the caliber of athlete on this field, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
always a chance for an explosive play, right? There's always a chance for an explosive play. But in my head, it was just never a doubt. I mean, like the way I saw these quarterbacks playing, the way that they were just absolutely under pressure the whole time. Common Core getting bailed out by Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, granted, Common Core made it happen. He made it happen. Made those where he
He
needed
missed
to.
some throws. I thought he went stretches in this game where like he missed throws, and you cannot do that if you want to go on the road and beat Michigan. I don't think personally. I think both these teams have to play much better than much better than what was shown on the field today or this week. But to be honest, like I was thinking about this game and I was like, what really happened? Like, what does this remind me of? Like, what does this mean for Penn State in the future of that program? Because like against the rest of the Big Ten, against the rest of the country, right? Outside of Michigan and Ohio State, they're really, really good. And they're kind of in a tier of their own. It's like they're not quite in tier one, but they're the top of tier two. I don't know. It reminded me a lot of the year where Michigan, I believe they were playing Dwayne Haskins in Ohio State. It was like a couple years ago, pre-COVID, and they got cooked. Now, obviously, Penn State was a much closer game than Ohio State was, or than that game was against Michigan. But like, it was just like they just couldn't cover Marvin Harrison when they needed to. They just couldn't do it, and like Ohio State and Ryan Day just found holes in the offense. And I think Penn State, in my opinion, I think they're starting to recruit better now than they have the past 3 years. And so they'll continue to stack classes and be at a spot where Michigan is now, where they're on the same field, same level, same playing field as Ohio State. Where I think give it a couple more years of James Franklin at Penn State. I know it's frustrating if you're a Penn State fan. You're like, we have the quarterback, the 5-star quarterback. We have freaky talent. Why can't it be this year? Just give it a couple more years. Eventually, it'll get there. I think the resources at that program, the coaching staff there. I'm not too worried. And Drew Alar will be better. His best days of football are ahead of him. I think we all understand that. But right now, that was tough. That was. I give him a lot of credit though because he stood in there, he had happy feet. At the beginning of the game. I'm not
He
a
took
mechanic guy for
he
quarterback.
took he took responsibility though. After the game, he took responsibility. He knew that he sucked. He said it. He's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
suck.
yeah. And obviously he could have pointed the finger at his O line, and his receivers were not getting separation. Goes back to the point where like Ohio State has JTT, right? Gets pressure on Drew Alar, and then also like Penn State doesn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. to bail him out, right? Or even Cade Stover, man. Cade Stover's awesome. That was a heck of a catch he had down the seam there. Good ball by McCord for sure, but Stover made some plays after getting a little banged up during that game. He's a baller.
Oh, for
Slowly
sure.
becoming one of my favorite players in college football. I think for a lot of people too.
Absolutely.